I've made a few videos recently on conservative men on this channel, and sadly, I have made the decision to sometimes go on Twitter on my desktop, despite the fact I've deleted it off my phone, and I don't use it much anymore. And for some reason, it loves to recommend to me to read the most unhinged shit I've ever seen in my life, because Twitter has essentially become poll on 4chan as like a mainstream social media company. And it's safe to say, on Twitter at least, conservative men aren't holding back in telling women that they hate them across a variety of issues. And it's pretty clear that conservative men are not okay, as they haven't been for a while. And it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it? It's like conservative men say terrible things about women, therefore, women don't like them and don't date them. That's a recent thing I made a video on, conservative men complaining about women not dating them for their conservative views. And then they start blaming women for not dating them and then calling them terrible things, and the cycle just keeps repeating itself. And conservatives love personal accountability, but when it comes to this very one issue, they don't realise how so much of what they say means that women won't ever like them. And I think it's so telling that a lot of these people that you're going to see today, they post from like anonymous accounts. And I think it's pretty clear with most of these conservative men, they just don't have healthy relationships with any of the women in their life. And they probably don't have many relationships with women outside of their family and stuff, because the fact they would even say some of this stuff just shows how like ignorant they are generally. So I want to talk about like the man or a bear thing. That's a bit old, but it plays into this because men had their own version of it called woman or a tree. Would you rather tell a random woman your feelings, or would you rather tell a tree your feelings? And then we're going to talk about, like, of course, the backlash to things like the new Perfect Dark game, because these people all have adult film brain, and if a character isn't obscenely objectified, they start saying she's ugly. And I just want to talk about all of this today, because more stuff I keep seeing on Twitter as well, which I should probably just never go on it again. There's been like liberals saying, oh, the left fails men, that's why men all become conservatives. I really just reject that premise, and I always have. Like, men who talk a lot like this have their own hang-ups with women in terms of just acting like these people have any valid points when it comes to this stuff. And as leftists, we obviously want to move away more from like a set gender binary under patriarchy, and we focus our problems on like general capitalist alienation. So I don't know why we have to try and appeal to some of the worst men in the conservative movement to try and get them on our side, especially when we believe in an ideology that would end an ideology that causes a lot of their problems, and that is patriarchy, which enforces gender norms onto men, which makes them feel like they can't do things like tell women their feelings because they feel like that's unmanly. And also, if there are women who are toxic about that themselves, saying, you know, a man doesn't share their feelings, that is also because of the same system telling them as well that that's the role men should fulfill. And I think like realizing we all suffer under this is something people just like really need to understand better, rather than acting like men are all poor victims suddenly because women have got more equality because of things like feminism over the last, I don't know, 40 to 80 years, right? So all of that coming up today. Please follow me on social media, mainly on Instagram, my personal and my travel Instagram. Follow me on Threads and follow me on Blue Sky. And also check out the Patreon and consider becoming a patron for between $1 and $3 to get access to my videos early, and also to get access to the Discord server. Really appreciate everyone who's already signed up to the Patreon page, and let's get into the video. So basically, if you have been like literally living in the woods, you might have missed this trend on social media, man or bear.
Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?
Bear. Man is scary.
With a bear.
What I've heard about bears, they don't always attack you, right? Unless you like fuck with them. So maybe a bear.
Depends what man, but probably a bear.
And you'd think to most people, these are pretty fair statements, because statistically, of course, you're more likely to be a victim of violence from a random dude than you are to be from a wild bear. Of course, bear attacks do happen, but they also like rarely ever happen, and there has to be specific circumstances which make bears more violent than usual. But as these people all rightly acknowledge, Bears are wild animals that have been studied, wild animals that you can more likely predict their behavior because of so much study done, and because their brains aren't developed. Bears can't like talk to you, bears can't manipulate you, bears can't put you into a false sense of security and then do something terrible. They're just wild animals. So you know more easily what precautions you can take, you know how they react to certain situations, you know what will stress them out, and you know what you should probably do to get yourself out of that situation if you're in danger. But if it's just a random man, you don't really know what to do, and there's a multitude of things that could happen. Of course, most random dudes you might find in the woods on your own, yeah, they'd probably be fine, but that misses the complete point. The men who say it's not all men is that statistically, in terms of gendered violence, women suffer overwhelmingly at the hands of men. So in terms of violence done against men, that's mainly done by men, and in terms of violence done against women, that's mainly done by men as well, and that's why you get so many horror stories. And of course, you know, as I say, patriarchy creates a lot of these conditions. But yeah, most violence suffered by women is done by men. And also, if you asked me this question, I would say the bear as well. And I say this to a lot of people I spoke to. If you've grown up and you have suffered violence at the hands of men as well, just like spontaneous violence, like sadly in my case, I have a couple times throughout my life, like some gang stuff in school, just randomly when I was like 23, just standing in the street, some guy off his face, probably on cocaine and alcohol, just comes and punches me so hard in the face, just like out of nowhere, had nothing to do with this guy, just randomly sucker punched by some crazy dude, right? So even for me personally, I'd rather take my chances with a bear because of that, right? And of course, a lot of men acted completely sensible to this, started saying loads of stuff like, you know, the typical, well, it's not all men, completely missing the point of women talking about their experience, to obviously just saying more unhinged stuff, as we're going to get into. But I did read an article from someone, Anna Richards, who actually talked about this choice, where she had to choose between a man or a bear in the wild, and she was basically out hiking in Armenia, where there are bears and stuff, and to be safe, she chose to try and seek shelter, so she stayed on someone's front porch. Some man offered her, you know, you can camp on here. The man actually tried to assault her, right? So when you have like so many stories of this and you have the statistics to back it up, no wonder loads of women would say, yeah, I'd rather take my chances with a random bear than a random man. Considering the proportion of bear attacks versus considering the proportion of males doing violence against women, basically regardless of context. Of course, in actual relationships, it is mainly men as well, but in terms of broadly, it's mainly men too. And of course, when you have stuff like this, woman found dead in mountains was a victim of California's first fatal bear attack. Ian Miles Chong writes, still prefer bears over men. Of course, someone says, well, I don't see the bears gloating over a woman dying, so yeah, the first fatal bear attack. And if you're someone using this as a gotcha, of course, women are going to be super wary of you. And of course, it shows you don't actually have healthy relationships with women in your life if you can't understand this basic point. Of course, other men were gloating in the comments. I guess she was putting her money where her mouth was and found reality. It's a fluke. All women should go hug bears to prove it. I bet she tried to pet it, the new Tide Pod challenge. But don't worry, in response, men are not okay, so they had another response. A trend they started, would you rather tell your feelings to a tree or a woman? And it's so funny how they think this proves any point. Firstly, you've changed the whole context where women are talking about potentially dangerous situations, and you've changed it to, would you tell your feelings to a tree, which can't hurt you, or a woman who can maybe hurt you with words in that situation, or not being as respectful as you would like. It is funny like how this inherently recognizes how different it is for dudes anyway, because I think they feel like if the situation was flipped and you ask most men, would you rather be alone with a woman in the woods and a bear, most would choose women. For a variety of factors, but also, you know, statistically as well, just like how women would, we know that most violence done upon men is from other men. And it's not from women. And then we have things like, you know, the average height of men, average weight. You know, I'm 6'2", like 185 pounds. So in my head, inherently, you think you have that work in your favor to defend yourself. But I want you to listen to some of the answers because a lot of women were basing it on personal anecdotes. But they also have the statistics to back them up of, yeah, being around a random dude in the woods is more dangerous than a bear, as we said, first fatal bear attack. So on Ask Men, would you rather share your emotions with a woman or a tree? A tree can never use my insecurities against me. I've tried sharing my emotions with a few women I had in my life, but 100% bit me in the ass every single time. Last time I got the response, "I'm not your therapist, go get help." That was when I expressed my feelings on the fact that I felt alone and couldn't solve a problem. A tree won't tell me how to feel, tell me that what I'm feeling is wrong, tell me how I should be feeling instead, weaponize my feelings against me. Tree is green and calming. Trees won't look at you weird for being vulnerable or use what you say as ammunition during your next fight or get a divorce. Tree is nature and friend. The tree, because a tree does not have to see you in a provider-protector role, and if you share your emotions to a tree, it won't all affect you the way the tree sees you. I would be interested to hear if this guy is against the patriarchy. The tree will not dig up what you shared years ago as ammo against you in a fight or to gossip about you in a breakup in an effort to make them look better. Trees will not get tired of listening to you after 10 seconds and try to steer the conversation about them. Thankfully, there are some sane people. This doesn't have the same effect as the other question because it's a fucking tree. There's no risk. Based on my experiences, I'm picking the tree. There may be 2 or 3 good women in my life, not counting family members that I could go to and they won't gossip or use what I tell them against me. 3, so much this answer. I know all the hopeful answers, but the reality is emotions shared with a known woman can and probably will be used against you at some unknown point in the future. A known woman will inevitably use your emotions as a weapon. It may not be this week, this month, or this year, but your feelings will be used against you when the woman is sad or angry or jealous. Your previously exposed weakness will be used against you. So yeah, I sympathize in the sense that clearly a lot of these men have had bad experiences opening up with women in their lives with their own feelings. And I know for a lot of men that is a hard thing to do for anyone. So they have my sympathy there. They don't have my sympathy, then they turn around and say, women will just always do this. Women will always use your feelings as a weapon against you one day. So never tell them. Never tell women your feelings. You'd rather tell a tree. Basically keep it bottled inside because you know you're talking to something that can't hear you or respond. Because at the end of the day, that's better than sharing it with a woman. So that's a universal thing. You should never share your feelings with your sister, your mother, your friends, your partner or anything like that. Because inevitably, when push comes to shove, they're going to use that to manipulate you. And these people think they're not misogynistic in saying that. Because their anger should be directed at the patriarchy, which makes men feel like they can't say this, and also tells women a lot of the time that men shouldn't act like this. So if you act like this, you're basically a pussy. You're not actually a real man. And yeah, women think that as well sometimes because of the patriarchal system. So what, you wish they'd realize is, yeah, you've had a shitty experience, no one's denying that. To say that is all women is like insane because most women in the bear one weren't saying all men are terrible, right? But a lot of people here are saying, yeah, all women are actually bad. And actually the women who have done this to you in your life, they've done it for the same reasons you feel like you can't open up about this stuff. So yeah, not really a great alternative there. Turn something that was women saying, yeah, we know most men wouldn't do something, but statistically they're more likely to than a bear, and then changing it to all women are terrible and manipulative and will use your emotions against you if you ever open up, so better never say anything. Not really like the most calm response there, but I saw that a lot around on social media. But now let's get into the more like explicit misogyny here. So I saw this the other day. Ted Cruz posting about the 19th Amendment, which gave American women the right to vote. Now, I've seen a couple Republican politicians say stuff about this, but it's clear it's not on the national agenda. I'd say something like ending no-fault divorce is more popular than repealing the 19th Amendment. But you have heard a lot of conservative influencers talk about ending women's right to vote. So Ted Cruz posts here, very cool, this is the actual 19th Amendment which passed the Senate 105 years ago today. It gave women the right to vote and was brought about by the incredible grassroots efforts of the women's suffrage movement, a historic civil rights victory for every American. And then, of course, all the comments with lots of likes. That's nice, but the cultural ramifications that ensued were, well, let's just say we are suffering through. So 2020 election, if only men, the women voted. So if only men, 326 electoral votes for Trump, and if only women, 462 for Biden, which is so amazing to me that a Trump supporting conservative is saying, oh yeah, it's bad women have the right to vote because if the election was decided just by women, they wouldn't vote for Donald Trump. Says me, the Trump supporter which wants to take women's right to vote away. Maybe there's a link there. Maybe they don't vote for conservatives as much as men do because you're saying stuff like get rid of their right to vote, among other really misogynistic things. You see other stuff like this. Women's suffrage was a mistake. Repeal the 19th. I'm starting to think this might have been a mistake. Repeal, perhaps the most harmful amendment ever passed. Typical Cruz L, the beginning of our downfall, needs to be repealed. And we've been going far left ever since. Should be repealed. 105 years ago, no good has come from it. We need to remove women from politics. Pretty clear a lot of these men are not okay, and blaming women for essentially the left winning elections is funny, and their response saying, yeah, we can't make a better argument for anyone. We can't show why our lifestyle is better. Better just ban them from voting because they won't vote for us. That makes a very solid case for your side, and for your side like not hating women, that you can't offer women anything essentially. And of course they can't. But the thing is, even for most people, conservative policies like offer absolutely nothing. Like think about the Republicans in the US or the conservatives in the UK. Like what do they offer? Like 95% of people. And then you have like the explicit misogyny on top of that in the conservative movement, and just basically promising to make your life worse. You can't be surprised when your side relies on cultural issues, mainly at the expense of women. They aren't going to like your side. And again, you saying in response to that, repeal their right to vote, is just going to put you further down this cycle, the same way that these conservative men blame women for not liking them, and then get more misogynistic, and then keep wondering why women won't like them after saying so much misogynistic crap. And as I made a video about a year ago, even conservative women influencers were getting really sick of all the misogyny on their side. Now, talking about being explicitly misogynistic, but also being terminally online and terminally like adult film brain these people are, they also say terrible shit about women in video games they don't personally find attractive. But it gets even weirder because a lot of the people they target are people who actually are very conventionally attractive. Because they have adult film brain, they still say terrible shit. So Perfect Dark got revealed at the Xbox showcase, and it had a new look for Joanna Dark in that she actually looked like a real person for the first time ever, and not some like weird old graphics game character. Now, if you guys remember, they also went mental about Lara Croft because despite the fact the actual new version of Lara Croft was like one of the best looking game characters I've ever seen in my life, because she wasn't wearing skimpy shorts 24/7, they went crazy about that as well. Said they preferred like the PS1 one that looks like a Cybertruck. Because someone tweets, this is the character men are complaining about that is ugly and masculine. This character, this one, and of course we look at Joanna Dark there, and she is very conventionally attractive. Like, imagine seeing this person and being like, oh my god, that is ugly. Like, even in modern beauty standards, or really any beauty standards, is that ugly? And if we actually look at the actual actress, yeah, it looks pretty much like her as well. Because a lot of these dudes start complaining that these characters are kind of like made ugly from the original, model. But if we actually look at this one, they look really, really similar. And again, actually conventionally attractive person. But then this guy replies, again, he's got his own face on this profile. Men and women are complaining that they uglified her by applying the woke chin. This is a common current woke practice of widening the chin to give female characters a more masculine appearance, arguably to appeal to the transgender agenda. Holy shit, that is just so much brain rot. But again, imagine going around your real life, all the women you know, and showing them this picture and saying, this woman is made ugly to appeal to the trans agenda. Most normal people, well-adjusted people who have healthy relationships with women would think you're completely insane and have terminal adult film brain, which these people do. So this is so funny to me. So Melanie Mack was one of the women I said was complaining about misogyny in conservative spaces. And she says, I will never forgive them for this. Joanna Dark gets the modern audience treatment with disrespect. Also, Is Joanna Dark like some really revered character? Like, she was in a few classic games in the 1990s and then in like a shit reboot in like, what, like 2005, and that's it? Like, is this really like a sacred icon who can't have their appearance change? But again, she's playing into the same misogyny she complains about. Like, if you're going around saying this woman is ugly and she's been made ugly on purpose and woke, again, think about what you're saying. You're basically saying any woman who looks like this is fucking ugly. They have disdain for feminine beauty. They believe it promotes heteronormativity and therefore must be diminished. What is not feminine about this woman in this game? She looks like a conventionally attractive woman. Again, you have to have adult film brain rot to see this attractive woman and say that she's there as a disdain for feminine beauty. We are regressing to unprecedented levels. Perfect Dark Zero from 19 years ago versus Perfect Dark 2024. The infiltration of modern audiences and activist hires into game development will be the downfall of the video gaming industry. Again, imagine what this poster, imagine his relationship with women if he thinks this actress is ugly and represents the downfall of the gaming industry. I just can't understand these people, and my only explanation is they're social rejects, complete weirdos, basically have no social life at all. Like, I'm not just talking about in terms of having a healthy relationships with women. I bet they just never leave Discord and they never leave their computers to have insane opinions like this. And it also seems to me a lot of these people are into animated stuff from Japan, right? And I can probably make a video about how that plays into it, especially the types of women they find attractive in these animes. But I guess I'll save that for another video. If your brain is completely consumed by anime adult content and also just like traditional adult content, then yeah, maybe you'll see like someone who looks like a very attractive normal person. Maybe you'll see that and be like, oh my God, ugly. But again, go around your real life. Tell this to your sister. Tell this to your girlfriend if you ever had one that you think this is ugly. Go out on a first date and tell a woman this. See their reaction to you. See if they think you're normal. See if they think anything you say has any basis in logic, because I guarantee you they won't. But again, self-fulfilling prophecy. They say shit like this about attractive women, then women don't date them or eventually start hating them. Then they blame all women for their problems, and the cycle just keeps continuing. So as I was saying at the start of the video, right, a lot of people somehow like try and find a way to blame the left that men are turning into absolute weirdos on social media, which I like constantly reject. Like, what are you meant to tell these people, right? How am I meant to get through to these people? And how am I meant to break through the social media radicalization? In terms of these people who are so far gone, they're openly saying this shit, I say fuck them, to be honest, right? Because there are so many normal people in the world who might not even have much of a political association who just don't act like this. And it's worth reaching out to just your everyday person who isn't completely consumed by, you know, anime adult films and stuff, and talk to them about real issues which we all share regardless of gender and we're all victims of regardless of gender, like things like patriarchy, rather than trying to appeal to these weirdos. But for some reason, some weird people on the left and the liberals and stuff, they get focused on it's the left's fault. That's all our fault. These people turning into that is our fault, and we have to do more to appeal to them. We have to rival Andrew Tate to get over to these people, which I don't think we do, because in terms of like the left's policies, we advocate for stuff that benefits everyone, and everyone would be happier if we had them and we'd have less of these issues. Because seriously, how am I meant to engage with people who've been so radicalized into the far right? For me personally, like, tackling misogynistic hate is way more important than trying to pander to these perpetuators of misogynistic hate, hoping with a slim chance that maybe I'll change their mind by like saying what? I don't know what they're going to convince them at this point. So yeah, it's whatever. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.